Hey, what's up guys, this is Brad with Despite Fitness, and I want to do a video today and talk about something that I think is kind of an interesting point of discussion, especially if you are into powerlifting, right? So this is going to be for those that powerlift competitively, and if you don't powerlift competitively, conversation may not be that germane to you. But if you're into powerlifting, then you'll probably know that with it being May 13th right now, the KERN US Open is ongoing. First day of lifting was yesterday, and then the heavier males are lifting today. Actually, here in about I don't know, about 30 minutes or so, it should kick off. And I want to talk about squat depth, because if you watched that first day of squatting yesterday, there were a lot of red lights going around, and although some of that had to do with you know, missing commands and whatever, a huge number of those red lights that were going down yesterday had everything to do with squat depth. And it wasn't just, well, I mean, everybody in that meet is a fairly high level lifter, if not the most elite lifters in the planet, right, around the globe. So you know, there were a lot of people that were susceptible to you know, issues with squat depth, and I want to have that conversation because there's a lot of back and forth online about, you know, squat depth, either going ass to grass or, you know, just barely breaking parallel and doing the whole deal. So you know, you can find probably some research on the topic if you were so inclined that could argue one way or the other, you know, the benefit of going ass to grass, or, you know, the mechanical advantage of, you know, not moving weight more than you need to move it or whatever. But just for conversational purposes, we're going to shy away from any kind of a scientific standpoint on this and just look at practicality. So my vote absolutely is ass to grass squat, bury it, and not play that game of just, you know, dipping the toe in, so to speak, or just trying to kind of get below that line, because, you know, it's hard to judge that distance, right? It's hard to know exactly, you know, when you've dipped below that line. And the other issue with the you know, trying to gauge squat depth is that you're talking about essentially a subjective ruling, right? So the rules itself is objective. It's black and white. It's written on paper. Everyone can read it and understand what the, you know, the guidance is. However, the fact that they have those two judges there on the sides, you know, judging that squat depth, is a subjective measurement of an objective objective. So those judges are there to make that decision. I think that anytime you're a competitive powerlifter and you make that judge make a decision about whether your squat was deep enough or not, you have fucking failed. That's one thing that you can absolutely take 100% control of, and take that power away from that judge to make the decision or the ruling about whether or not your squat was appropriate depth. Because we all know that, of those of us that have competed, that when you go there, you have a plan. You're going to hit one number, then you're going to go for another number. When you miss that squat depth and you get those red lights because you're not going deep enough, it can throw your whole plan into disarray, right? And then you put yourself in a position where you got to try to either make up weight, you know, by repeating a number, or, you know, you power on and make your next bump, regardless of having missed that squat depth, and that's a dangerous game to play. And so the thing that I think about in terms of arguing for or against, you know, one way or the other, is I think the only way to go is burying it, ass to grass, because of that stretch reflex, right? So when you're able to get yourself down, bury that weight, and rebound out of the hole, you carry way more momentum than you do if you try to, you know, hit the brakes at a certain spot, stop, and then return. You get that carryover and that momentum. And I think that too, also by kind of getting that rebound and going that ass to grass squat, you're able to sink faster, right? Because you're not worried about trying to stop on that dime. You're able to sink until your body hits that natural rebound point where you're not going to go any further. You rebound and you return, right? You have more momentum versus trying to stop on that dime, because when you do that, you tend to move slower because you're trying to stop on that spot. So you try to slow that momentum, so you dip your hips just below the line and then return. By doing that, you're actually moving a little bit slower, and I think that moving that weight slower negates any benefit that you may get from that less range of motion. Because people will tell you that the range of motion is one of the reasons why not to squat ass to grass. I think that's silly. And you can see it by going back and looking at the footage from day one's lifting. Red lights were going out like Skittles, man, like all over the place. And so two things on that. One, this is USPA. So USPA, among all of the federations, really prides itself on maintaining some sense of rule and consistency in their rulings. So there's that, right? They are going to judge hard on squats. Period. It's going to happen. And then two, you're talking about like their marquee meet, right? One of the biggest meets that they put on. In fact, probably I think the largest cash meet ever. And so yeah, when you have that much on it, and then you have that much attention on the meet, they're going to be making damn sure that that standard is maintained. So if you're not impressing those judges and really demonstrating that you're hitting that depth, they're gonna zing you. And like I said, if you're one of the high elite lifters and you're leaving it up to a judge, you're fucking failing. So yeah, so I think that really the only way to go in terms of competitive squatting is that ass to grass squat. And what's more is I think that it's you train how you fight, right? So if you go back and you look at, and I don't want to call anyone out by name, but you look at some of those high level, top tier lifters that were lifting on, on Saturday's meet, and you look at some of their lifts, you can see it very clear from that live stream footage that their squats were high. And then those same lifters, if you go back and look at their social media, they were training high. A lot of those lifters were squatting high on a lot of their training lifts. And so it's one of those deals where you train how you fight. So for any of you lifters that are out there that are new lifters thinking about getting into powerlifting, or are kind of already lifting, I would say to you guys that it's best to train that ass to grass deep squat. I think that you're going to get full muscular development by increasing that range of motion. That can't hurt you. And then that rebound effect. Now you could talk about the risk or potential for injury, but honestly, anytime that you're getting weight on your back up to near maximal load for your human capability at that point in time, you're running a risk of an injury, irrespective of how deep you go. So I think that the injury conversation isn't necessarily all that important when you're talking about the competition. If you're a high level athlete or you're a competitor and you're looking to try to do the best that you can on a meet, I think one of the best things that you can do is not miss lifts because you're going too shallow. So that's the basis of this conversation, guys. You want to ask my wife here, who's been filming, if she's got anything that I missed. Did I miss anything? I covered it all.
I think you got it all. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it just comes down to a mind game too. I mean, if you're missing lifts, then it's going to fuck with your numbers. It's going to mess with your, just your focus. So the more lifts you can make, the better off you're going to be. That's one thing that you can control out the gate. Whether you miss some other numbers or something else, you can't help with that injury, but that you can control. So might as well.
Yeah. So control what you can, guys. Don't leave that ruling into somebody else's hands. Take that power away from them. Sink those squats. Make sure that you're leaving no question about how deep you're going, because everyone knows when he goes deep, he goes better. Anyway, guys, that's it. I appreciate you checking out the video. If you got any questions, comments, or concerns, leave them in the comment box below. I'd like to know what you guys think. Are you the ass to grass squatter, or do you like playing that little tiptoe game? And maybe it works out for you, maybe it doesn't. Leave those comments. Let me know what you guys think. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. I appreciate that very much, guys. And yeah, that's it, guys. Remember, no matter what it is you think you can't do, train despite. You either find an excuse or you find a fucking way. That's it, guys. Appreciate you checking out the video, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.